right, so June 1st is officially behind us, which means the real trade season can technically begin in the NFL, right? After Juneteenth, shout out to Juneteenth, by the way, power to the people. The real Independence Day. No, after June 1st, teams have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to cap space. So while these cuts have not been official yet, they are not official. They have some here are my unofficial trade cut slash partners that may do it and then where they will end up landing, right? So obviously, I think the biggest one is obviously Kirk Cousins. I think he is the biggest, most likely to get traded and or cut. With them doing it after June 1st, Atlanta saves about 28 mil, so like big deal. For Kirk Cousins, it's so weird because Kirk Cousins started off hot, right? Like he started off hot, had like 500 yards against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at one game in the shootout with him versus Baker Mayfield. He was swag surfing, and it was all good when it was all good. Then he got down bad, and he ended up getting benched for Michael Penix. And I when you take a quarterback in the top 10 in the NFL draft, you're basically saying he's the quarterback of the future. You just didn't know when the future was going to be. And I think the future is now for the Atlanta Falcons. And it's time to go on and, see what you have in Michael Penix Jr. to see where you can go, what type of quarterback he will be for you. And I think it's just time for Kirk Cousins to move on. And I do have, I think the best spot for him, if they trade him, would be Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's the best spot. Between everything that's gone down with, Aaron Rodgers, the whole will he be the quarterback, won't he be the quarterback, what he's truly waiting on. If they don't believe what they have is good in Mason Rudolph, I think going and getting a Kirk Cousins for a last little bit of a run will be good, right? Mike Tomlin can get again. They have always been one thing short of being good, which has always been a quarterback, right? Like ever since Big Ben, right? The last few remnants of Big Ben, they never really had a true blue backup plan for him, right? They thought it was Kenny Pickett, was not. They thought they traded and got him for what Russell Westbrook. I mean, Russell Wilson. It wasn't. They had something with Justin Fields. They just didn't believe in what Justin Fields was going to do. So they never truly had a quarterback. And I think going and getting, at the very least, if you're going to continue to try to make this push for the playoffs with the team you have, you might as well go get a veteran quarterback that has some weapons around him at least and a good defense. And we know it's Mike Tomlin, so we know he's going to have a winning record and possibly get into the playoffs. You never know what happened. It's Mike Tomlin. You know what's going to happen. He's going to get into the playoffs and run into a top team and get bumped out in the first round, right? It's tradition. Death taxes. Mike Tomlin gets into the playoffs and loses in the first round, right? It is what it is. But no, I think Kirk Cousins would definitely be a great fit for Pittsburgh and what they're trying to do over there, at the very least, if they're trying to make a move to get a quarterback in the future. At the very least, they can still be competitive in a very tough AFC North division. Staying in the AFC, this one is hard because while I do think Miami is, kind of sort of cleaning up shop a little bit, and while I do think they have two potential, trade options going, the first big one would be Tyreek Hill. I, it, the time has come for Tyreek Hill to move on and to go a different route, right? Like it has not worked in Miami. He's put up great numbers, but as far as like winning goes, it has not worked in Miami. It just has not it has not looked great for him in Miami. Like he put up great numbers one season, and then this last season it was very subpar. Of course, his quarterback has been hurt. His team has been kind of subpar, where they start off hot in the beginning of the season and they cool off, or they cold in the beginning of the season and then they get hot in the last bit of the season, but they don't make any noise in the playoffs because their quarterback gets hurt. So I think Tyreek Hill, it's time for him to move on, and I do have the perfect place for him. I think he can go be a true blue number one receiver and be a big help to a team and a young quarterback, which is the Denver Broncos, right? I truly believe that if the Denver Broncos are truly trying to make a run at the AFC West title and make a run at knocking off Kansas City, going and getting someone this skill level of a Tyreek Hill to pair him up with Bo Nix would be, it's something you cannot miss out on. Like, you cannot miss out on that, right? Going and getting somebody like that, chef's kiss, right? You have a Tyreek Hill who will have a chip on his shoulder, especially playing that team 2 times a year. Just imagine going back to uh Kansas City after all of those times, right? 2 times a year and playing for your arch rival. Well, not arch rival, but your rival in the division, right? You're an up and coming team. Yeah, that would be something to see, right? And I just think it fits him better to go to a Denver Broncos with the offensive minded, head coach in Sean Payton, but a guy who's been a proven winner and knows what it takes to, put a team together to win a Super Bowl or to have success in the playoffs, right? Like I just think he's a better fit in Denver than, in any place else. And then you have the flip side of that coin where you have a guy in Jalen Ramsey who doesn't want to be out of there. I think he wants to be out of there as well. And I think the best fit for him, maybe the Raiders. Like, for Jalen Ramsey, it's so hard because he's not the same Jalen Ramsey that he was coming to, when he was coming from LA, coming from Jacksonville, right? Like, he's not the same. He's kind of getting a little bit long in the tooth there. So, like, maybe the Raiders, maybe he can go to the Chargers. It's hard for me to see. Like, at best, maybe, since they did not address this in the draft, he can go to Minnesota. Like, I think if he goes to Minnesota, he will be a perfect fit for them. They didn't really get a cornerback in the draft. Their number one need they did not fill. So I can see him going there and kind of, at the very least, getting, you know, anchoring that, secondary and that defense a little bit more to where they are and a little bit more established, right? Because again, with JJ McCarthy there, we don't know what we have in him. So we do have to kind of get a little bit more anchored on what we do have, which is a good defense. So, like, I can see him going to maybe Minnesota and, could potentially, help push this team over the edge, right? And again, rookie quarterback, we don't know, but I definitely can see that happening. Another cornerback that I can see end up being moved this offseason, or this kind of, as I call, off trade season, Jaire Alexander. And no, I'm not just saying that because I want him out of the division, because as a Bear fan, he has given us flux for the past, few years. No, I'm not saying that solely. That's not the sole reason. It's part of the reason, but not the sole reason. I just think Green Bay they want to go younger in that secondary, and Jaire can't stay healthy. He can't stay healthy. When he's on the field, he is an elite shutdown corner. When can stay healthy, he can guard the best your receiver has to offer. But if he can't stay healthy, he's not good. If he can't stay on the field where his production matters, what's the point? If you're not on the field, you could be the best cornerback out there. But if you're not on the field, if I can't have you out there doing what you're supposed to be doing, what's the point? Right? Like, what is legitimately the point? If you're not out there being the best, I can't have your reliability. And I think he, again, is very good, and one of the best landing spots for him would most likely be Kansas City, right? Like, if Denver does go out and get a Tyreek Hill, Kansas City's going to need somebody to stop him. So I would go see that. And Steve Spagnuolo loves a veteran cornerback too, right? Like he can plug and play into that defense. Steve Spagnuolo is going to definitely figure out multiple ways of getting, him, scheming him to where he can, be the best effective. And even if he does get hurt, the best thing about that, even if he does get hurt, if he gets hurt at the beginning of the season, come playoff time, he'll be right and ready, right? Like Steve Spagnuolo loves the defense like that. Like, come playoff time, he'll be ready to go. Because they're going to make it to the playoffs because Patrick Mahomes is about to be on demon time. But yeah, no, I think Kansas City is the best spot for him because, again, he can use his, his proverbial be a shutdown corner that they need, right? Again, one of the reasons why they lost the Super Bowl. They didn't really have a good secondary. So, and this one's going to be hard because it sounds worse than what it actually is just because of the fact that I'm saying he'll get cut and or traded after, essentially having it's hard to say. Essentially having like dropping the pass that could have won or at the very least tied the game last time we saw him on the field in Buffalo. But yeah, I do think Mark Andrews is probably going to get traded. Mostly just because Cap and Isaiah Likely is coming through, right? Isaiah Likely is still on a rookie deal. He's probably going to be owed a big money contract if he can now perform this season. But money is just smarter to keep him, right? Mark Andrews, again, is kind of weird, right? Because he's kind of in that weird limbo of he was supposed to be like that third tight end with him, Kittle, and Kelsey was supposed to be like the three-headed tight end monster that was supposed to revitalize the tight end spot. But in another one of those cases where injuries kind of happen and injuries kind of sort of build it up on him. So it's hard for me to sit here and say that, he's in that same category of tight ends, but he's not no scrub. And I think the best landing spot for him would obviously be Tampa Bay. You get him back with his college quarterback. You get him back with his college roommate, one of his best friends in college. For God's sakes, the man was in his wedding, right? You team him up with Baker Mayfield. That offense is now a very much elite level offense. That is an elite offense. You have Baker Mayfield, even without Liam Cohen being there, right? Like that offense is scary good. If you add a Mark Andrews to that team, just imagining that. Because who are you going to guard? Chris Godwin in the slot, Mike Evans on the outside, McMillan on the inside, the kid they got from Ohio State, right? Once he comes around, like this offense is scary good. Bucky Irvin and Rachaad White. You throw a Mark Andrews on there, chef's kiss. This offense is dark horsely scary good to be not just a playoff contender, but a Super Bowl winner if they can go and get Mark Andrews. And another tight end who was another one of those guys that were supposed to be the next one up and be next one around was Noah Fant, and he never really did that. And I know Seattle, was kind of sort of going through a rebuild mode, so get rid of him while he's still kind of, cost efficient, kind of, where he has those costs low. I think the best fit for him would probably be Carolina, right? Like the best fit for him is Carolina. He needs to be with a young, QB, give him a nice little safety blanket, get him with Dave Canellis, the guy who helped revitalize a lot of these quarterbacks' careers. So I definitely think that is a pretty good place for him to go. If nothing else, like I said, he can still show that he's still a top tight end in this league. And he can go help out somebody, in my opinion, was on the verge of a breakout year. Right? Like tale of two coins, right? He went from being a potential bust of all time to now one of the greatest stories in the NFL, to go from bust to booming in that short of time span is crazy talk, right? Crazy talk. But this next one is hard to put because while he does have, it's a great route runner, good hands, he's not a name that kind of jumps out to you as a wide receiver, right? Like he's not somebody just like going to be, on the board and it's just like, oh yeah, that guy, right? Like you know him, but you don't know him right that, right? Like you hear his name, you know he's a football player, but it's kind of one of those cases where it's just like, yeah, I know you're a football player, but like I just can't put my finger on it. And that's Kendrick Bourne, right? And he's in, that Patriots locker room right now, and I think they end up cutting him or trading him, and I really do think more they end up cutting him. And I think the best landing spot for him would probably be the Ravens if the Ravens truly want to make a run at Super Bowl. I think going and getting a receiver who, again, while may not be, big in name time value, it still has a very good value on the field, right? Because again, D Hop, I love D Hop. I don't think D Hop is going to be the same D Hop we know and love, right? You got Zay Flowers, you got Rashad Bateman, you got Isaiah Likely. You got a lot of these guys there that are, willing to step up. You just signed Derrick Henry to a 2-year extension, which basically means he's going to be a Raven for the rest of his life. Go get Lamar Jackson one more weapon to kind of help push him over the top. Because I'll be honest with you, like Homeboy put up the meme of, Lamar Jackson as James Harden. What Anthony Mackie say in Cap and the Winter Soldier? He's out of line, but right. I mean, if you look at it statistically, Lamar Jackson does get a little lemon booty syndrome when it comes to the playoffs. When it comes to the playoffs, especially when it comes to going against a Patrick Mahomes and a Josh Allen, he gets lemon booty. So, right message, wrong messenger, because you're a rookie kid. You ain't really supposed to be talking like that. I mean, I appreciate your moxie, but you shouldn't be saying that. But Lamar Jackson is getting dangerously close to being in that category of, yeah, he's great, but he never really got over the hump like that. So it's hard for me to say that he's great like that, right? And I'll say this, this was around the time where Peyton Manning finally got over the hump and beat Tom Brady. And I think Lamar Jackson, this may be his Peyton beating Manning year, right? I think this year he has what it takes to make a significant run, right? Like, I do believe that he can get over the hump this year and he can kind of, proverbially get that monkey off his back of being able to beat a Patrick Mahomes or beating a Josh Allen in the playoffs when it counts the most. Again, everybody remember, no matter what it was, no matter how hard he tried, Peyton could not beat Tom Brady. And it just took that one magical moment. It took that one magical playoff run for him to do it. And he did it. I think Lamar Jackson is getting close to that. And I think he's due for it this year. So hopefully he can get over the hump. But if they can go get a Kendrick Bourne, that would definitely help out. And then the final guy I have on here is Austin Ekeler. It's so hard because he's still a very good player. He's a very good receiving running back, very good coming out of backfield, nightmare matchup, can still run and tote the rock. But I just think the Commanders room is getting a little crowded, so to speak. I think it's getting too crowded back there. So I can see him leaving, and I can see him probably going. You know what? I'll say this. I can probably see him going in the division just because I think he'll get cut, not traded, and Dallas will end up picking him up, right? Because they don't have a running back situation going on right now. And there is another guy who I think Dallas could make a move for until that, I don't know if they can do it just because they still haven't figured out what they're going to do with Micah Parsons just yet. But if Dallas could go and make a move and grab a Kyle Pitts and then also sign an Austin Ekeler, this offense would be legitimately scary. That is a scary offense if they can do that. If Dallas can pull it off, I would be shocked. But I do see Austin Ekeler going to be in a Dallas Cowboy and making those divisional games very interesting. Because again, quiet as it's kept, the NFC least, which means the NFC East, is starting to come together and starting to look a little tough. And like, I wouldn't want to be a team to come out of there if Dallas does that move, but if I would not want to be a team that has to come out of that division, especially now. So continuing on from that whole little Lamar Jackson kind of like diatribe I had earlier on, right? It one of the biggest debates going on in the NFL, especially when it comes to the future of the NFL, is arguably the quarterback position, right? Everyone is saying the game has changed, but has it really? Right? Like when you stop and think about it, like when you really think about it, is a mobile quarterback a requirement now to win games in the NFL, especially today? Right? Like, can you win without being able to create plays in the pocket? Because one of the big things that I will say is that defenses have gotten better, right? The defense has gotten stronger, faster in every sense of the way in the league, right? So like you cannot be a statue, so to speak, and still, you can still be an elite statue, right? Like obviously you look at Matthew Stafford, I think he's kind of like the last gunslinger in this era, right? Like he's the last one standing, right? Everybody else is kind of either gone or, you know, not as good as him, right? Like, because you can lump Jared Goff in that, category of like, you can lump him in as a statue, but I do think he has his moments of mobility. But I just don't think he's like a true mobile quarterback. He is more of the traditional pocket passing quarterback. Um, but him and Golf are kind of the last hoorah, right? Like they're the last true gunslingers. Everybody else, it's kind of him and Sam Darnold. I'll give Sam Darnold that too, right? Like those are the three, right? Like those are the last few three that are not as mobile as everyone else. And the big question is, can they survive? And is it extinct? That's the big question. Is the pocket passer extinct? Right? And I'll say this. Given the numbers, they support my thing of saying it is extinct because, again, I've only really did it from 2015, so I did it from 2015. Obviously, the most winning quarterback from 2015 would be Tom Brady, obviously, right? Like, not a question there, obviously. But then when you look at all the other quarterbacks behind him, from Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, what do they all have in common? They have a level of mobility in their arsenal. Like you look at like not only just from wins and losses, look at passer yards, right? Passing yards, right? Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Goff, and Burrow. Bur- Burrow again is a sneaky one of those guys who has mobility but doesn't really rely on it to a degree, right? Goff again is the last kind of mobile guy, but Joe Burrow can kind of he can get it when he needs to, right? But again, you look at those guys, right? All of those guys are higher up in the passing yards, right? That's right. So it does involve a question of, is mobility a requirement to be an elite quarterback? And obviously, I think the biggest question is yes. I mean, the obvious answer for that question is yes, not the biggest question. The obvious answer to that question is yes, right? Like, you cannot be an elite level quarterback if you don't have some semblance of mobility. You cannot be an elite level quarterback if you have no escapability or survivability in the pocket, right? Do you need to be a Lamar Jackson? Do you need to be a Justin Fields? Do you need to be a Jalen Hurts? Do you need to be a Josh Allen? No, but you do have to have a level of that in your game to survive, right? Not all, again, not all quarterbacks are built like some of the quarterbacks I just named, right? But you can be a Caleb Williams who's not known for his legs, but can make a play, extend the play out. You can be a CJ Stroud, a Joe Burrow, like I said, not known for running, but does extend plays out mostly because his offensive line is just dog terrible, right? Like, so he used to that. But CJ Stroud does it, right? Trevor Lawrence does it. Justin Herbert does it, right? Excuse me, right? Like, they all are capable of extending plays out to kind of get the ball downfield. And again, we all seen it where in some cases Patrick Mahomes was the number one rusher on his team in some games because he didn't really have a run game, right? Defenses are getting faster, they're getting smarter, they're getting better, right? And sometimes the offensive line can't always live up to the speed of a defensive end, an edge rusher, hell, even a D tackle, right? A nose tackle, right? They can't, keep up with the speed sometimes. So you have to have some mobility in your game to survive, right? It comes with it. Now, again, I'm not saying that I am saying that it's a requirement, but I'm not saying that it's the only way to be elite. You look at a Matthew Stafford. He's been doing this game for a while, right? Like, he's been doing it. Now, this may be his last hurrah, but he doesn't have, his longest run of his career, I think, like 7 yards, right? But I think the problem is we conflate two different ideas, right? We think of a mobile quarterback as being a running quarterback, right? Like, we kind of conflate those two, right? Because there is an actual difference between a running quarterback and a mobile quarterback, right? Mobile quarterbacks are a Patrick Mahomes, a Joe Burrow, a CJ Stroud, a Caleb Williams, a, in a sense, a Matthew Stafford, right? They move in the pocket to keep themselves open and to draw out a play, so that way a receiver downfield either gets open or has an opportunity at the play, right? A running quarterback, such as a early Lamar, an Anthony Richardson, a Justin Fields, a Kyler Murray early on in his career as well, right? Their first instinct was to run. Their legs were their primary weapons, right? They had design run plays. They were only really feared as a runner, right? So when you have that level of you're only known as a runner, that's where you get the kind of the when defenses say, well, we got to make him beat us with his arm, not his legs, right? Again, I remember the Miami game where, to me, that was the true Justin Fields come out game, right? Where he ran all up and down the field on him, but also was able to produce a pretty decent stat line, right? I think he had like 300 yards that game, right? Pretty decent stat line, right? But but the Dolphins feared him more as a runner than they did as a passer. Given now, when we look at our quarterback now in Caleb Williams, yes, he can break a play. Yes, he can, make a play come out of nothing if the play breaks down. But his primary goal is as a passer. He extends plays with his legs, but he doesn't, his first instinct isn't to run. His first instinct is to extend a play out to throw the ball downfield, right? Like, there's a complete difference in that, right? Because you can build like with Patrick Mahomes, right? Patrick Mahomes, yes, he does run, but what is something we have known for him? We call him the the improvisation, the making things up on the fly because he has such a big arm, the capability of extending the play out that gave a Travis Kelce, Rashid Rice, Xavier Worthy, a Tyreek Hill, or Brian Pringle, a chance for those guys to get open was because Patrick Mahomes was able to draw out the play a little bit longer, was able to extend that play out, kept his eyes downfield. Like, that is the key difference in a running quarterback and a mobile quarterback, right? Because in a Justin Fields case, yeah, he can break a play any minute, right? Play breaks down, his first read's not there, bam, right? Defense caught lacking, busted off a 50-yard touchdown run, right? But the problem is injury prone, turnover prone. What was Justin Fields' biggest issue as a Bear? Turnovers, right? Turnovers killed his chances at being the starting quarterback for the Bears for a long term, whether it be fumble or interception, right? And oftentimes they end up being, we have a shorter fuse with them when it comes to progression, when it comes to developing as a quarterback, right? We have a shorter fuse because it takes a little bit longer for them to develop as a true blue passer, right? Take the perfect example of a running quarterback turning his running capability into a, until mobile was Randall Cunningham, right? When he was in Philly, he was living Gumby, bro. Like, the man was incapable of getting tackled. He would do things that you would just never seen before, like bending, like going under the circle, going around, everything like that. But he never really won until he changed his game up and became more of a mobile quarterback when he went to Minnesota. Like, that's when he, they didn't, they weren't a Super Bowl contender. They should have been, but they lost it to Atlanta that one time. Sucks for them, right? But it also helped that he had a guy in Randy Moss and Chris Carter there to help him out, be a great receiver. So that helped too. But you saw his maturation process going from being like, yeah, I can still make those plays with my legs. I'm still a threat if defenses don't contain me properly, but my first instinct is not to run. My first instinct is to pass now. And I think with mobile quarterbacks, it kind of has to start with running quarterbacks. I'm sorry, you kind of have to slowly start to do that because, again, one of the big questions is, which prototype do you want to build your franchise around? Like, do you want to build it around a guy that potentially could be hurt almost every time he runs it, or a guy who can develop a play, keep a play alive, right? Like, which prototype do you want more? Or if you could you get a quarterback that has the best of both worlds, that can break off a play and go for 50, but also has a great cannon for an arm? Oh, right. It's just, not like those guys fall off of trees or, are created in a lab somewhere, or, I don't know, go to Wyoming like a Josh Allen did. Right? Like, to me, Josh Allen is the prototypical quarterback that you're looking for right now. It's a little bit more than Lamar. I love Lamar. I think he's a great, but I don't think he is the prototypical quarterback that you're looking for right now. I think he is definitely a quarterback that you're not afraid to have. But as far as just being able to do the best of both, you it definitely has to go with Josh Allen, right? To me, Josh Allen is the best of both worlds. You got the mobility there. You have the capability of breaking a run at any moment if the defense is called lacking. But you also have, if defense is, pressuring you and telling you, hey, beat us from the pocket, cool, that's I bet. I'm just gonna throw a 50-yard bomb. So one way or the other, you getting these 50 yards dumped on you. When you gotta sneeze, but it's stuck up in there, and then it's just like, oh, I gotta sneeze. Hold on 1 second, and then you don't sneeze. I hate when that happens. But yeah, Josh Allen is the prototypical quarterback you want, and he reminds me so much of Cam in those early years, and not just from their play styles, because their play styles are extremely similar, right? Like not really wanting to get out of bounds, willing to get those extra few yards, because since he's such a physical specimen, he's a weird. Again, he's 6'5", 240. That's most defensive linemen are 6'5", right? So he can go and he can go head for head, blow for blow with defensive linemen. And the same thing with Cam, right? Like Cam would do that. Cam would try to run over a defensive lineman, run over a linebacker instead of getting out of bounds. And, eventually that caught up with Cam. And that's the one thing I do worry about when it comes to like a guy like a Josh Allen is eventually those blows do kind of catch up to you. That's why you look at somebody like a Randall Cunningham, he had to change his game up to go stop being a running quarterback to being a mobile quarterback. But with Josh Allen, it scares me a little bit because the difference between Randall Cunningham and even Cam Newton was again the difference in time, right? Like you could hit a quarterback 17 times before the whistle blew, right? Even with Cam Newton, you could kind of get away with it just because it was a quarterback and he gave himself up in being a runner. With Josh Allen, I'm not worried so much about that because of the way the NFL and the rules are set up about late hits and hitting beyond the whistle and all of that stuff, but it still takes a toll on your body. And physically, can he keep up? Because again, what was the time frame when Cam Newton started to go downhill? It was after his MVP season, right? Josh Allen just had an MVP season. It could be suffice to say that this could be the time where he does start to go downhill a little bit, especially when the Bills did nothing to help him out offensively for him to kind of win some more games, right? Like they did not go out and get him a primetime receiver. They did not go out and get him any type of help on the offensive line or, a tight end or a running back, right? It's just him and James Cook is basically that entire offense. And the question is, how long can he sustain this, this style of play? How long can he put this team on his back and continue to get to AFC championship games, to get to the playoffs, to do all of these things before eventually he starts to break down, right? Yeah, Josh Allen may be the future, but the future could be now if he doesn't get, some help and start to grow that team to being a threat to Kansas City Chiefs. Right? Because again, even when Kansas City is at it's not its strongest, they're still a whole lot better because they have a more well balanced team. Like Buffalo doesn't have that. It's Josh Allen and James Cook, and every now and then, it'll be the tight end, and maybe a receiver will make a good play every now and then. But Josh Allen cannot carry this team forever. They need to get him some help, or else he'll end up like like a Cam Newton, like known for making those great plays, but never really getting over that hump. And and while we're on the subject of Cam Newton and Josh Allen getting over that hump, we have this conversation wouldn't be complete if we did not talk about the double standards that come with being a mobile quarterback, right? Because for the longest, being a mobile quarterback was a detriment, right? It was not known. It was being like, well, hey, he's great for being like a wildcat or a gadget play, but like sustainable winning, I don't know if that's the case, right? Mobility was often labeled as a liability, or he had limitations on him, right? He can't really read a defense. He's an athlete first. His first instinct is to run. He doesn't really know when it's open, where to dump it off. He does all of these things if you're a black mobile or running quarterback. If you're a Caucasian male who just so happens to be a little bit sneaky athletic, Then all of a sudden, hey, it's a bonus, right? He can make a play. He can extend the play out. He's a sneaky athlete. He has a high IQ. He understands that his team needs him to do it in these moments, right? This is the main reason why Daniel Jones continues to get opportunities in the league, continues to get these, you know, quarterback battles, so to speak, to see if he's still a starting quarterback in this league when you got a guy in Justin Fields who has to constantly hear the whole quarterback, he's a running back, not a quarterback thing, right? Lamar Jackson got ate alive because he didn't want to move to wide receiver because that would be a better fit for the team. While they still were out here praising Tim Tebow for being a great leader of men, when he was Tim Tebow literally lived off of one slant pass to Demaryius Thomas for the rest of his NFL career. If that slant pass does not happen, Tim Tebow is not this vaulted, quarterback who, persevered and did all of these things the right way, right? When you're a black quarterback, you have limitations on you. When you're a white quarterback that can run, you're multi-dimensional. He's a winner. He knows how to get the job done, right? For the longest, the stigma was on running quarterbacks that they weren't going to win a Super Bowl, that they could not win a Super Bowl. That was the stigma on them, that they weren't smart enough to do it, that teams, when it comes down to it, teams were going to figure it out and make you beat them as a passer, right? Until it just so happened that Jalen Hurts won a Super Bowl, right? Jalen Hurts is the perfect example of a running quarterback maturing right before our eyes, becoming a very good mobile quarterback who knows how to use his mobility, as what it's supposed to be, right? A multifaceted addition to your game. Jalen Hurts prayerfully will not be the last one. And I know Patrick Mahomes obviously won Super Bowls, and he's obviously known for being a mobile quarterback, but he was never a running quarterback. Jalen Hurts was labeled a running quarterback as soon as he was drafted by Philadelphia. He was not really given a chance to show what he could do with his arm until this season, where he goes out there. He had a down year from the season before. Obviously, we'll do that when you have a Saquon Barkley. But when the moment came on, when Kansas City said, "You're not going to beat us with your legs. You're going to beat us with your arm, with your arm," and he did that. He ate them guys up. He ate up that defense up. Jalen Hurts proved that if you are a mobile quarterback, you do have an opportunity to win a Super Bowl. So the big question about this is the pocket passer an extinct part of the NFL? No, it is endangered though. I think once Matthew Stafford leaves, once him and Jared Goff leave, I don't think we'll see another true blue pocket quarterback for a while. You could put Shador in there as a pocket quarterback. I mean, he's not known for his escapability. He's known to stay in the pocket, but I mean, it's hard for me to say. I just truly think that the mobile quarterback is now the true new archetype for quarterback in the NFL. And if you don't believe me, again, Jalen Hurts is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Patrick Mahomes, multiple time winning Super Bowl, multiple MVPs. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen MVP, Joe Burrow, sneaky athlete. You can go on and on. At the end of the day, it is a requirement to be elite. If you want to be elite, you do have to have a level of mobility. If you want to be known as an elite quarterback in the NFL today, if you don't have any mobility, you'll just be stuck in the mud. All right, well, that, ladies and gentlemen, is my time. Shout out to y'all for listening. Shout out to Fluent Radio for putting me on, guys. Shout out to y'all, like I said, shout out to me for being the best sports podcast according to the Thank You for Listening Podcast Awards. Shout out to y'all for voting for me. But seriously, y'all, I appreciate everything y'all do. And again, shout out to Fluent Radio for putting me on. Without y'all, this would not be possible. So shout out to y'all. I got 2 fingers for you. Deuces. Oh, before I go, we gonna figure out something that we gonna bet on, Mel, because we bet on the last final, so we got to figure out what we gonna do on this final. But yeah, shout out to y'all. Until next time, guys. 2 fingers. Deuces.